Today we're going to be comparing the DJI Osmo Mobile 8P and the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro. And if you use the special Insta360 link below, you will get a MagSafe clamp free, and depending on where you live, you'll get a price reduction as well. The OM8P comes in a few different bundle options, but the key new feature is the detachable frame tap remote. And that gives you a live view screen, remote control of the gimbal, as well as access to various settings directly on your gimbal. So depending on the combo, you'll also get the multifunctional module 2 for AI tracking, and the usual accessories like the magnetic clamp, pouch, and cables. The Flow 2 Pro comes in different options as well, but to get the AI tracker, you're going to need the AI tracker bundle. And that bundle comes with the gimbal, the AI tracker, which is also a fill light, the same as the DJI, as well as a magnetic clamp, a USB-C to USB-A cable, as well as a pouch. Both gimbals have extendable handles, inbuilt tripod legs, as well as 1/4-inch screw mounts if you want to mount the gimbal to a tripod. DJI have actually made the OM8P inbuilt tripod a little bit more sturdy, so now it's pretty similar to the Flow 2 Pro. And now they both have metal legs that you have to extend one by one, so it's a little bit slower than previous versions of both gimbals, but it is much more sturdy. The Flow 2 Pro does have slightly longer legs, but other than that, there's no real difference here. They're both equally as stable, I'd say. The DJI handle extends a little bit further than the Insta360's, but there's not really that much difference. So the OM8P has that kind of classic Osmo mobile gimbal look, but now you've got this added detachable remote. On the other hand, the Flow 2 Pro is a little bit more unusual and kind of futuristic looking. You've got this transparent arm and a mirror, and that's going to help you to frame yourself when you're using the rear cameras of your phone. DJI does seem to have taken a little bit of inspiration from a few competitors, whether it's designed for the OM8P. We've got the detachable remote, which is pretty similar to the ones that you get on the HOEM devices. And we've got this more visible green light around the motor, which does feel closer to the Flow 2 Pro design than the previous OM models. The OM8P still has the counterweight mounting port that they brought back for the OM8, and that's on the roll axis motor, and that allows you to add a counterbalance, and then if you've got lenses or filters mounted, it just counterbalances that extra weight. And both gimbals have a USB-C port on the roll axis for charging your smartphone. The DJI gimbal itself weighs a little bit less, 10 grams less, but both gimbals have a maximum advised payload of 300 grams. So if you compare these two gimbals, you're basically making a choice between having almost everything within a small detachable screen and the Flow 2 Pro's physical controls. The remote of the DJI gives you lots of advantages, and the most obvious is being able to control your gimbal from a distance. The Flow 2 Pro also allows remote control, but only with a second mobile phone. So the downside of the detachable remote is that I found that it generally requires more taps and swipes to access the controls, so it does slow you down slightly, although you do have the option to use the power button on the side of the handle to switch modes. Another downside is that the remote is small, and if you lose it or something happens to it, your gimbal is no longer going to function. So there's kind of pros and cons to having the remote. I actually like it personally, but obviously there are downsides to it. So both of these gimbals allow you to change gimbal modes and to zoom in and out one-handed. Although I didn't actually find it as easy when I was trying to do this with the OM8P, because basically you're moving your thumb around and you have to swipe on the screen and stuff, and it's just not quite as easy as using the wheel on the Flow 2 Pro. One of the more surprising changes is that they've actually removed the zoom and focus wheel. And the downside of that is that really both OM8P and the Flow 2 Pro are now pretty poor at shooting focus pulls. So if you like recording focus pulls, then I'd recommend a gimbal which has a little wheel on the side, so the OM8 or one of the HOEM gimbals. But what about zoom? On the OM8P remote, you can actually press the function button, and that switches the joystick into zoom mode. And you can now use the joystick to zoom. What I do like about the Insta360 wheel is that you're able to switch cameras just with a little quick twist of the wheel. And with the previous versions of the DJI OM gimbals, you could zoom, but you couldn't just switch quickly between cameras. But they've actually fixed that with the OM8P. Once you switch to the joystick zoom mode, a short push of the joystick now jumps to the next camera button in the app. The downside of the Insta360 wheel is that it's either on or off, so you can't speed up or slow down while you're zooming. The joystick on the DJI is actually touch sensitive, so you can actually adjust the speed of the zoom, but I would say that it's not really as intuitive as the zoom wheel on the previous models. So both gimbals really only allow you to set zoom level, or you can record basic zooms, but you can't get that sort of sophisticated easing in and out. The Flow 2 Pro allows you to switch the wheel to control focus instead of zoom. With the OM8P, there's basically zero focus control now. And that's both on the gimbal and in the app. So that does mean that you're restricted to using autofocus unless you use a different app, of course. Now, when you have the gimbal app open, the Insta360 allows you to swipe on the control wheel to switch modes within the app. So in other words, you can switch from photo to video, slow-mo, pano, and so on. With the DJI Mimo app, you have to actually swipe on the screen because there's no way to change the app modes on the gimbal itself. It's just a small thing, but if you prefer to be able to control the app with the gimbal controls, then you might prefer the Flow 2 Pro. So one feature that the Insta360 has that the DJI doesn't is the selfie mirror. So this mirror on the roll motor, it just gives you a little bit of a help to frame yourself when you're using the rear camera. Basically, if your head is centered in the top curve of the circle, that should be centered in the frame as well. It's a bit rough, but it gives you an idea. The OM8P does improve DJI's subject tracking with Active Track 8.0, as well as improved support for people, pets, vehicles, and objects. But the Flow 2 Pro still has a clear advantage in how it handles groups. Both gimbals have three forms of tracking. There's in-app tracking, there's Apple's docket tracking, and both have a detachable AI tracker as well. When it comes to tracking, I'd say the biggest difference between the two is when it comes to the group tracking, because the Flow 2 Pro can treat a whole group as the subject and then try to keep that group framed. On the other hand, the DJI system is really more about identifying possible subjects, multiple subjects, and then you can choose which one to follow. You can also do that in the Flow 2 Pro system. But the DJI system doesn't allow you to select an entire group and then track that. So if you're filming a group, the Insta360 behaves like group tracking, and the OM8P still behaves more like the single subject tracking, but with better subject selection. So when you're using the app for tracking, the Insta360 still has this auto zoom tracking. And what that does is automatically zoom in and out as the subject moves to keep them roughly the same size in frame. So I'd say that is still a pretty useful feature for solo creators, and it's something which the OM8P doesn't have. One new addition to the tracking on the DJI OM8P is dual lens boost. So what this does is combine the wide and telephoto lenses on supported phones, and the idea is that it's going to improve subject tracking at a distance. So you don't really use this if your subject is a long way away. So this is actually part of the Active Track 8 update. So it's MIMO only tracking and actually iPhone only as well. So you're going to need an iPhone 13 Pro or Pro Max or later. Both gimbals support Apple Docket for iPhones, but when I was testing them, I did find that the Insta360 gimbal worked better than the DJI gimbal. Now, Docket only works with the AI tracker removed, and that's the same for both of these gimbals. Once you go through the setup procedure, you shouldn't really have to go through it again, but I found that with both gimbals, you often have to reconnect by holding your iPhone against the NFC area of the gimbal. However, with the DJI, I had to keep doing this every time I went into the Mimo app. So for example, use Docket with a compatible app, say the iPhone's native camera app, and you're going to get the square around your face. It's going to go yellow, and now it should start tracking. But when you switch out of the native app and go back into the gimbal app, the Docket connection is going to be then switched off, and it's going to start using the the app's inbuilt tracking. So again, both gimbals are exactly the same in that respect. But when you go back to the native camera app, the Insta360 gimbal actually reconnects to Apple Docket, but the DJI doesn't. So if Apple Docket is a feature that you want to use, it's important to you, then I'd say that the Flow 2 Pro implements it better than the DJI. The OM8P comes with a new multifunctional module, which they call number 2, and the previous is now called number 1. The previous one, the number 1, was bigger, and it actually prevented you from using the MagSafe mount, but on the other hand, you could use it to route your DJI wireless mics into your phone. With version 2, the audio feature has been dropped completely, so it's now more similar to the Flow 2 Pro AI tracker. And they're both basically a tracker and a fill light, and that's it. That said, if you prefer the previous version, the multifunctional module 1, then you can actually purchase it separately, and you can even use it with the OM8P. There's not much difference, but one difference is that the Flow 2 Pro tracker has indicator lights on the tracker itself. So you've got the red light, that means it's ready to track. You've got green, which means it's tracking. And the fill light actually flashes when it's about to take a photo or start recording. The DJI Module 2 doesn't have any indicator lights as such. Instead, the green circular light on the pan motor is used. So it's going to flash green when it's tracking, and you're going to get a quick double flash when it's about to take a photo or start recording. Both tracking models use gestures to allow you to start and stop tracking. But when I tested them both together in identical conditions, the DJI OM8 could only recognize my gesture when I was close to the gimbal, but the Insta360 Flow 2 Pro was able to recognize my gesture about 10 meters away.
Yeah, the Insta360 tracking just seems to be generally better still. Like I just did a quick test in the pond. Insta360 tried to start tracking a bird. Straight away did it, no problem. That was the first try. Booted up the DJI, and a few tries before it would actually track it properly. It sort of gets a bit confused with the reflections, which is understandable, but somehow the Insta360 managed it. So yeah, it seems like the Insta360 still has the edge when it comes to tracking.
When it comes to the fill light on the tracker, this is again not much difference between them. One difference is that the DJI module is a little bit more adjustable because you've got 8 brightness levels and 8 color temperature levels versus the Insta360's 3 brightness levels and 3 temperature levels. But if you had to pick one, you might pick the DJI because it has more options for settings. Like most fold-up gimbals, both have a limited tilt movement. And that means if you want to shoot something like a rising crane shot, you need to move the gimbal sideways. But the Flow 2 Pro gets around that with free tilt mode. So all you do is twist the pan motor 90 degrees and it's going to automatically go into free tilt mode. And now you can shoot those nice lifting crane shots, and it opens up a few other tilt shot options as well. Both gimbals allow you to twist the pan axis motor to change the angle. With the Insta360, you can actually only tilt one way, while the DJI can now tilt both ways. And this does enable a kind of low angle shot. And I'd say that most fold-up gimbals allow you to shoot low angle, but the idea here with the DJI is that you can now hold the gimbal in front of you. It's a bit like walking a dog, but with your smartphone instead. So if I had to choose between this and Insta360's free tilt mode, then it's pretty clear to me I would choose the free tilt mode because that allows a classic cinema shot and other shots as well. Whereas the DJI is really just allowing you to hold your phone low down in front of you. So it's kind of less diverse, less useful, less flexible. Both gimbals can rotate 360 degrees around the pan axis, so you can keep moving and the gimbal isn't going to lose track. On the OM8P, the new big feature is this detachable frame tap remote, and we've got a small touchscreen that magnetically docks to the handle, and it just comes off pretty easily when you want to use it remotely. So it allows you to get a live mirrored view of your phone's camera, in fact your phone's screen, whatever's on it, and as well as that you can control pan, tilt, trigger tracking, switch modes, and a bunch of other stuff. And you can do all this up to 25 meters. For screen mirroring on the Android, you can just connect it directly. But if you're using an iPhone, then you've got to go through the Mimo app. but I got it to work fairly easily on both my iPhone 17 Pro and Samsung S26 Ultra. So this means that you're going to get a live view from your phone's screen, which is, pretty useful for framing. The Insta360 app allows you to connect a second device, and you can then use that for preview and basic controls, but the controls are more basic than what you get on the DJI detachable remote. But this does allow you to enable various tracking options and a few other things, and I found that it works well on both my iPhone and Samsung devices. The DJI Osmo Mobile 8P supports remote control via an Apple Watch if you're using the DJI Mimo app. And this allows you to view the camera feed, so obviously again good for framing. You can control the gimbal. You've got some limited controls over the gimbal, and you can also enable active track remotely. So you can adjust the gimbal's position, you can switch between landscape and portrait modes, and you can also start and stop recording directly from your Apple Watch. And the Flow 2 Pro also allows you to use your Apple Watch in a similar way. You can preview the camera feed in real time, you can adjust shooting angle, you can control features like centering the gimbal, you can switch between front and rear cameras, you can enable the flash, or you can trigger live photos. You can also activate quick rotation to rotate the gimbal 180 degrees. And you can also do things like manually switch the tracked target if you're using the group tracking mode.
So which one should you buy? Well, I think it comes down to which system you prefer. And if you like the DJI with its little screen and the live feeds that you get from that, the remote control, all those kind of aspects, then go for the DJI. If you like the Insta360, with its slightly better tracking, I would say, overall, as well as having all the controls with a physical wheel and buttons instead of having it in a little screen. So I think it's a pretty clear choice, depending on which one you prefer, rather than saying one is definitely better than the other. And if you do want to learn more about smartphone filmmaking, you can join us on Patreon, where I've got tons of courses, step by step. I also chat to people there. If you've got a specific problem, I can help you out. And as well, you can join for free, so I don't think it's all about the money. And if you don't like Patreon, you can buy my book, which is on Amazon. I've also got a Blackmagic camera book, as well as my best-selling smartphone videography, beginner to advanced. And that's it from me. See you in the next one.